All right, Algebra crew. Today we are dividing polynomials, section 11.3. These problems are pretty easy. They just take a little bit of time. All right. So I'm going to look at problem number 1. And we set these problems up. We basically want them to look like almost like long division. Okay. So the first problem says 20m cubed plus 10m squared minus 5m minus 3, and we're dividing this, not square root, all right, by 5m squared. All right, so what we're asking ourselves is, what do we multiply by the 5m squared in order to get a 20m cubed? All right, well, that would be 4m, right? So I'm going to write the 4m over here. 4m times 5m squared is 20m cubed, okay? And then what we have to do here, we bring down the, well, first we have to change our signs, all right? So this goes to 0, okay? That's what you want to have happen. And then you bring this down, okay, for 10m squared, okay? And then you ask yourself, what do you have to multiply by the 5m squared to get a 10m squared? That would be plus 2. That'll give you a 10m squared. And subtract or change the sign. So that goes to 0, right? And then we bring down the negative 5m, right? And then you have to ask yourself, what do you multiply by the 5m squared to get the negative 5m? Well, that would be a negative 1 over m. All right, that'll give us a negative 5m. We change the sign, that's 0. We bring down negative 3, right? And the negative 3, what do we get? In order to get a negative 3 by multiplying by a 3m squared, we need a negative 3 over 5m squared. Because if we multiply this, the 5m squareds are going to cancel. We're just left with a negative 3. Okay? You change the sign, 0. We have 0 remainder. So our final answer is 4m plus 2 minus 1m minus a 3 over 5m squared. Okay? Let's do another one. All right, let's do number 2. Once again, this is going to kind of look like long division. So we have 20c squared plus 23c minus 7. And this is divided by c minus 1. Okay? So now we have to ask ourselves, what do we multiply by the c to get a 20c squared? Well, we would need to multiply by 20c. And I'm going to put that 20c over top of where the other c is. And then we multiply. 20c times c is 20c squared. 20c times a negative 1 is a negative 20c. And we subtract or change the signs on these two bottom terms. So this goes to 0. 23c plus 20c is 43c, and we bring down the negative 7, right? So then you ask yourself, what times c will give us a 43c? Well, if we multiply by a 43, 43 times c is 43c. 43 times a negative 1 is negative 43. We change the signs so that this goes to 0. That's what you want to have happen. And then this here, we have negative 7 plus 43 gives us a 36. Now, this is like a remainder. This 36 is a remainder. So what you do with these problems, your answer is right here. 20c plus 43. You need to add that 36 all over c minus 1. Okay? Because if we were to cancel out the 36, we would need it to, or our multiplication term would have to cancel out the c minus 1. So the trick here is, and that's kind of what happened up here as well, all right, up here. Whenever you have like this remainder, negative 3, all right, you just put it over whatever the original divisor here is, okay? So, and I just showed you, if I were to multiply this negative 3 over 5m squared times 5m squared, we're just going to end up with a negative 3, which will get us to 0. It's the same concept here. If we take 36 over c minus 1 times c minus 1, the c minus 1s are going to cancel. The 36 is going to come down here and go to 0. So whenever you have a remainder like this, just put it over whatever you're dividing by, okay? Let's do another one. Number 3. Number 3 says 25n cubed, and these problems I'm getting from page 681. So 25n cubed. All right, now look here. It says 25n cubed, and then all of a sudden it goes minus 11n. So there's no squared term. You see back in all of these, it would go like a cubed term, a squared term, a single term, and then just a number. Here we had a squared term, a single term, and then a number. With this one, they're trying to go a cubed term down to the single. Well, we can't do that. We need to fill in a 0n squared. Even though it's not in the problem, we need to write it in there, okay? And then we can say minus 11n and then plus 4. And that's divided by 5n plus 4. Okay, just like that. Now, we need to think, what number multiplied by a 5n will give us a 25n cubed? Well, that'll be 5n squared, right? That's why we needed to put in this 0n squared, because we're going to have an n squared as part of our answer, okay? So now we have 5n squared times 5n is 25n cubed, okay? Then we have 5n squared times 4 is a plus 20n squared. You change the signs so that this one goes to 0. Here we have a negative 20n squared minus 11n. And then you ask yourself, what times a 5n squared, or I'm sorry, what times a 5n will give us a negative 20n squared? That would be negative 4n. So negative 4n times a 5n is negative 20n squared. Negative 4n times a 4 is a negative 16n. You change the signs. So now we have 5n, bring down the 4. All right? Remember, we're just constantly bringing these terms down. All right? So what times a 5n will give us a 5n? Well, that's a 1. 1 times 5n is 5n. 1 times 4 is 4. Change the signs. This all goes to 0. We do not have a remainder, so our final answer is just 5n squared minus 4n plus 1. All right, let's do one more. Maybe we'll use a little pink. So number 4. Number 4 says, oh, and these are all mixed up. So we want that squared term to go first. So 15a squared minus 16a minus 15. Remember, when you write this, make sure you're writing it in standard form. The problem had the negative 16a first. We don't want that. We want the squared term first. Remember, standard form, your exponents decrease from left to right. All right? And we're dividing by, they told us 3 plus 5a. I'm going to write 5a plus 3. So what times a 5a will give us a 15a squared? Well, that would be 3a. 3a times 5a is 15a squared. 3a times a 3 is a 9a. So change the sign. I have this going to 0. This is going to 25a. You bring down the negative 15. So what times 5a will give us a 25a? That'll be a negative a. Oh, this is supposed to be negative. Okay? So what times a 5a will give us a negative 25a? It would be a negative 5. So negative 5 times 5a is negative 25a. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Look at that. They both go to 0, no remainder. So your answer is 3a minus 5. All right? So make sure you do these problems. Just get as much practice as you can. It's not really that difficult. You just got to make sure you follow the rules. Everything's written in standard form. If they leave out, like on this problem, they left out that squared term, so we had to put in the 0n squared. Make sure you do that. Make sure if you have a remainder at the end, like here with the 36, you add that term at the end of your 20c plus 43. I added in plus 36 over c minus 1. That's always going to happen if you have a remainder. All right? Stay healthy.